When I first moved to Panama, I was enamored by the lush landscapes and vibrant culture. As an avid hiker and nature enthusiast, I often sought out the hidden gems within the countryside. One such place was the Lagoon of Las Brujas, a secluded body of water nestled deep within the forest. The locals called it the Witch's Lagoon, and the stories surrounding it were chilling enough to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was said that a witch named Esmeralda once lived in the village near the lagoon. Accused of dark magic and blamed for a series of misfortunes, she was hunted down by the villagers. In a desperate attempt to escape, she fled to the lagoon, where she drowned. Since then, anyone who dared to swim in its waters was said to be dragged down and drowned by her vengeful spirit. Despite the warnings, my curiosity got the better of me. On a humid, overcast day, I packed my gear and set out to find the lagoon. The trek through the dense forest was arduous, the air thick with moisture and the sounds of wildlife echoing around me. After hours of hiking, I finally reached the clearing that held the lagoon. It was eerily beautiful, the water still and dark, surrounded by ancient trees whose gnarled branches seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. As I set up camp, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Determined to document my experience, I took out my camera and began filming. The atmosphere was thick with an unspoken tension, and I could feel my heartbeat quickening with each passing moment. Night fell quickly, and the darkness seemed to swallow the lagoon whole. I built a small fire and sat close to it, the flickering flames providing a semblance of comfort. As the hours passed, I began to doubt the stories. Perhaps they were just local legends meant to scare off outsiders. Around midnight, the air grew cold and a dense fog began to roll in. I could barely see a few feet in front of me, and the silence was suddenly shattered by a low, mournful wail that seemed to come from the lagoon itself. My blood ran cold as I strained to see through the fog, but there was nothing there. Just the dark, still water. I tried to shake off the fear and return to my tent. As I lay there, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps circling my campsite. They were slow, deliberate, and impossibly close. Holding my breath, I listened as the footsteps stopped right outside my tent. The air grew colder still, and I could see my breath misting in the air. Summoning all my courage, I unzipped the tent and shone my flashlight outside. The beam cut through the fog, revealing nothing but the empty campsite. I stepped out cautiously, scanning the area. The footsteps resumed, this time moving towards the lagoon. My flashlight flickered and then died, plunging me into darkness. In the faint light of the moon, I saw something that made my heart stop. A figure stood at the edge of the lagoon, shrouded in the mist. It was a woman, her long hair hanging in wet strands around her face, her clothes dripping with water. She turned slowly to face me, and I saw her eyes, dark, hollow pits that seemed to suck the very light from the world. Esmeralda! I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet as she began to move towards me. Her movements were unnatural, her feet barely touching the ground. I turned and ran, the fog seeming to thicken around me, making it hard to see or breathe. I could hear her behind me, her wails growing louder, more desperate. My foot caught on a root, and I fell hard, my flashlight skittering away. As I scrambled to get up, I felt an icy hand close around my ankle, pulling me towards the lagoon. I kicked and thrashed, but her grip was unyielding. The water was now mere inches away, and I could feel its chill seeping into my bones. Desperation gave me strength, and I managed to free myself from her grasp. I crawled, then ran, not daring to look back until I was far from the lagoon. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the forest, the first light of dawn breaking through the trees. Back in the village, I told my story to the locals. They listened with grave expressions, nodding solemnly. "You are lucky to be alive," one of them said. "Esmeralda does not usually let her prey escape." I never went back to the Witch's Lagoon, and to this day, the memory of that night haunts me. Sometimes when the wind is just right, I can still hear her wails, carried on the breeze, a chilling reminder of the night I narrowly escaped the witch's grasp.